If you're the second preferred vehicle from the customer, you're the first one they're not buying. We can see it as a threat, we can also see it as an opportunity.
Welcome to The Big Question, the series from Euronews where we speak to some of the biggest names in business. I'm Hannah Brown, and today I'm joined by Xavier Martínez, CEO and President of Hyundai Europe. Thank you very much for joining me today, Xavier. Can you just tell me a little bit about where you currently sit in the European market?
If you look at personal cars, we're at 4% market share in Europe. We're ranked number 10 on the market. When you look back in time, 10, 15 years ago, we're at half this market share. So Hyundai has been growing over time. And there's a lot of challenges right now in the car industry, everywhere in the world, in Europe in particular. So we can see it as a threat. We can also see it as an opportunity to try to move the needle a little bit more in the coming years.
And where do you see the real opportunities for growth for Hyundai in Europe?
Europe is fundamental for us. There are some markets where we're really top five, and some markets where we're like way behind that. The Tucson, for example, is an icon in the CSUV segment. ID.5 is also doing a great job. There are some other segments, like the segment in which we are not performing as well. From the private buyer point of view, people buying the cars one by one, we're doing a pretty decent job with a 4.5% market share. But when we look at the B2B segment, which is like fleets, we're up so good, we're at 3.3%. So again, it's room for improvement. There's potential to be seized in many different areas in Europe. We need to develop products that are taking European customers' needs, lifestyles, demands. And when we do have global products, we need to calibrate them, because you don't drive on the German Autobahn like you drive in an interstate in the US. I mean, we need to be able to like somewhere really adjust and fine-tune the vehicle characteristics so that vehicles satisfy the customers wherever they drive.
You're producing battery electric, hybrid, plug-in hybrids and combustion engine cars still. What trends are you seeing among your customers?
Say a quarter of our sales are coming from battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid. We have roughly 30% coming from hybrid, and then the rest is coming from, let's say, internal combustion engines. It's in line with the market evolution. EV adoption is there, but not at the speed that was planned by everybody a few years back. So if you look into what experts were saying 3 years ago, for example, they were saying by 2025 there should be a 30% EV mix in Europe. We're at 17.5% in terms of market right now, total industry volume, and hybrids are really the ones taking the votes from the customers today. So we need to continue developing our strategy with these two legs. There's this EV leg and there's this hybrid leg for the future.
And you've announced production on a new car in the Ioniq family to start early next year. Can you just tell me a little bit about where that fits within your product range?
This vehicle was really built for Europe. It was designed for European customers. It was developed with the engineering center for European customers. And that shows really how important Europe is for Hyundai. I mean, it's the whole strategy that we've been launching quite some time ago. We need to cover all the segments of the market with EVs. Because right now what we see, for example, is that the EV mix is actually higher for fleet customers.
Yeah.
But retail buyers right now have a lower mix of EV. They still want to buy the old ones also because either they don't find the car they want or the price is too high. And this is why for us targeting this lower part of the segment with the strong EV propositions was fundamental. And it's one of the challenges that we have with EVs is that they're more expensive than, let's say, internal combustion engine vehicles. So again, it's important that we have the right balance between, again, the specifications of the vehicle, you have the right range, you have the right charging speed, you have the right equipment in the vehicle, until a price that's compatible with purchasing power of European customers in this segment. So it's a delicate balance, and right now there's a lot of great offers on the market. So you need to generate some kind of emotion that makes people want to buy your car. I usually say that if you're the second preferred vehicle from a customer, you're the first one they're not buying.
And on that note about pricing, do you think that EVs currently, not just Hyundai, the whole market, do you think they are really affordable for the average European?
Well, they're more expensive than ICE. Obviously, there's a price gap between the two because there's a cost coming with the technology. And so, yes, they're more expensive in terms of a retail price that we're selling our cars at. At the same time, the total cost of ownership has to include also the fact that electricity costs you less than fuel what you're putting in the vehicle. You have to include also the fact that maintenance costs much less because you have less moving parts in an EV that you do have in traditional vehicles. When people discover EVs, they realize how quiet the car is, how easy it is actually to use. They realize that the running costs are actually much lower than what they were used to before. When people buy an EV, they rarely go back.
So the vehicles that you're currently still producing in Korea, if you shifted more of that production to Europe, you'd avoid the EU import tariffs. And do you think that would really help your ability to be competitive in the market?
We have two plants serving Europe. We have the one in Czech Republic, which has a capacity of 330,000 units per year. We have the one in Turkey with a capacity of like 230,000 units a year, roughly. So the Czech plant was historically also EV ready. I mean, we've been producing the Kona EV in the Nozovice plant for several years. We're just investing right now to make the Turkish plant also EV ready. Last year, 79% of the vehicles were sold in the region were coming from these two plants. This year we should be around 70% because we lost the Inster coming from Korea, and the success is really much increasing the share of, let's say, production coming from Korea. But I mean, it sounds easy, like to switch production from one plant to another, but it's always more complex than that because it's a factory, but then you have the ecosystem with the suppliers all around. Never say never, but for the moment, there's no third plant plan for Europe on the table. The key thing is really finding the right products that are really the ones made for Europe with the right volumes, because again, you need to generate the economics that justify the investment. We've started building EVs in Europe with Kona, for example. Kona EVs are, let's say, a historical success story in Europe. Hopefully, the production version of Concept 3 will also be the next success story of EVs in Europe.
Finally, talk to me about hydrogen-powered cars.
And when you look at the potential of hydrogen vehicles in Europe, you're like, potential is not really present. It's true. But at the same time, we're not just developing one car. We're developing a car, bus, truck. And when you look at our plant in Savannah, Georgia, in the US, we're also producing our own hydrogen. So at the end of the day, you're not talking about one car, you're talking about an ecosystem. It's something that we definitely want to continue investing on. EVs are one great way to electrify the car park. But we also have some questions about access to raw materials and rare earth materials. And will these tensions on access to raw materials really change? Not so sure. So again, it's quite interesting to develop some kind of alternative that one day might become quite interesting or might become like quite viable actually as a complement. So we're not opposing the two. We're just saying it's good to have like different solutions to decarbonize the car industries.
And what right now do you think are the barriers?
The infrastructure. We don't have that many charging stations. So, and again, like the charging stations for hydrogen cost a lot more than electricity. Again, it's why we don't see these technologies as opposing technologies, but they might complement each other. So that's why we've announced it that by 2027, when we talk to European customers, every single Hyundai model in Europe will have at least like a hybrid powertrain or a plug-in hybrid powertrain or a full EV powertrain or hydrogen powertrain. And I think it's really like one of the interesting propositions that Hyundai is making to customers in Europe.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for joining me on The Big Question.
Thank you, Anna.